Hey everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be breaking down my 2023 NHL playoff bracket. Should be a really exciting postseason this year. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. But anyways, let's get right into it and let's start off with the East. So to start things off, we have the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. And how cool is it that this year's President's Trophy winning team is up against the last year's President's Trophy team in the first round? This is a really exciting matchup, and I'm really impressed with what Florida did at the end of the season. They faced their adversity all year long, but they found a way to get hot at the right time, and they ultimately made the playoffs. I will say that the season series was split, so that was really interesting. I mean, Boston only had so many regulation losses, and a couple of them came to the Florida Panthers. Now, let's be clear that the Bruins are red hot heading into the postseason as they have won 8 straight. They do have a little bit of injuries going on. Krejci isn't expected to return until late April, which is unfortunate for them. A veteran presence will be missing. You also have Nick Foligno, who won't be in the mix. And then Linus Ullmark might miss game one, so we'll have to pay attention with that goalie situation. But the backup in Jeremy Swayman is very reliable. Florida will be without Patrick Hornqvist for the whole playoffs. That will be an unfortunate loss for them. They also will be without Sam Bennett. So there's a couple injuries on both sides here to pay attention to. And I think that this will be a rather bigger challenge for Boston in the first round. I think they probably would have been better off going against the Islanders. This Panther team just kind of is sketchy because, I think that they just have a lot to prove here. They want revenge. They want to say, hey, we were just last year's President's Trophy team and we want to put up a good fight here. So, I mean, we might really see that. But at the end of the day, there's so much to look at with Boston where they just have this complete team up front on the defense, and the goaltending has just been amazing. And in Florida, the goaltending situation is pretty sketchy, if you ask me. And I just don't see this one going all too far. I do think that Boston will probably win this one in 5, but to play it safe, I'm going to go with 6 games. Next up, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This should be a fun one. It is a rematch from a first round matchup last year. So here we go again for those Maple Leafs. A lot of pressure on them because obviously that first round curse has been around for quite some time now. But I really like what's going on with this Toronto Maple Leafs team. Obviously, they made just all sorts of trade deadline acquisitions, and Jake McCabe, Ryan O'Reilly, Noel Achari, Sam Lafferty. And then they even had one of their top prospects in Matthew Nyes coming in from the NCAA. So Toronto they have this amazing depth. And then, of course, we know what's going on up front with Matthews and Marner. And even though Matthews hasn't been as crazy explosive this year, he's still put up a 40-goal season. The vibe isn't very good in Tampa. They've got they're not too banged up, but they are missing Tanner Jeannot, who was a big trade deadline acquisition for them. They traded a bunch of picks to get him, and now he has an unknown return. So that's a loss. And then I also look at the season series. Toronto won it 2-1. Toronto was also 7-1-2 in their last 10 games played, whereas Tampa Bay is 4-6 in their past 10. And Tampa, they've just been more inconsistent than we've seen in a long time. And Toronto, I really like the vibe that is going on with Toronto. And even though it's a curse, I say that it ends. I'm going to go with Toronto in 6. I think they're going to get the job done this year. Call me crazy, but I'm going with it. All right, now we got Carolina and the New York Islanders. There's a lot going on here. Andrei Svechnikov is unfortunately going to miss the entire postseason. Just a huge blow for the Hurricanes. Whereas on the Islanders side, Matt Barzal will be ready to go for game one, so that's good stuff. The Islanders do have a little bit of injuries going on. They're going to be without Alexander Romanov for a little bit, and Oliver Wahlstrom is ruled out for the rest of the season, so that is too bad. They'll be without one of their nice young goal scoring wingers. The biggest question for me with the Islanders is, can they return to the postseason form that we know that they're capable of? They made the Eastern Conference final in back-to-back seasons before they missed the playoffs last season. The Islanders have had a lot of recent playoff success, but I'm not 100% sure if they're actually going to be able to just jump right back into the playoffs and get back into it. But they do have an interesting challenge here in the Carolina Hurricanes, who is just at the beginning of the season, halfway through, this just looked like it was going to be Carolina's year, but that vibe has just totally changed. They're facing all of these injuries. You also have to consider the goaltending situation where Freddie Anderson, I mean, he's just nowhere near the tier of Ilya Sorokin. Sorokin is going to be able to steal this series. At the same time, I'm sure Carolina is going to be so hungry here. And as I was saying, they did win the season series 3-1. So I do think that Carolina is going to get away with this, but I think it's going to go all the way to 7 games. Now we've got our final first round matchup in the Eastern Conference. We have the New York Rangers and the New Jersey Devils, and I know that those fan bases have been waiting for a battle like this for a very long time. The Devils are one of the new faces in the postseason here, and they were out of the playoffs for a very long time, but now they're back, and the Devils just look like they're going to be around in this party for a good amount of time. New Jersey won the season series 3-1 against the Rangers. However, most of those games came before the trade deadline acquisitions that both teams made. And both of these teams made some great moves. You look at the Rangers, who maybe made some of the more interesting acquisitions in getting the clutch playoff performer in Patty Kane. You also get Vladimir Tarasenko. And then for the Devils, they get Timo Meier, who was pretty much the number one guy on the board. And not only is Timo Meier hopping on board, but he also looks like he'll probably be a long-term piece in New Jersey. And I think he'll be an excellent fit. He kind of had a rather slow start, but at the end of the season, he was really starting to find his groove. Both of these teams could very well go really far in the postseason. And I mean, that's what's so hard about the bracket challenges. You have to choose between two teams in these first round matchups. And with this playoff format, sometimes these first round matchups aren't really fair at all. So I think whoever wins this series has what it takes to maybe make it to the very end. I'm not too sure to this day, but right here in this moment, I'm going to go with the New York Rangers. I'm just looking at experience here. I just love just the more so experienced group in New York. I mean, they just have all sorts of these guys who are looking to get the job done in the postseason, and some guys who have never won the Stanley Cup, like Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider and Adam Fox. And then, you also got the guys who have gotten the job done before in the postseason, and Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko. Then in net, you have Igor Shesterkin, and I just think he's way more superior than Vitek Vanacek on the Devils, though Vanacek has done a really nice job in New Jersey. But it's just kind of a scary situation for me. I just think the Rangers have a bit of an edge here. I think that they're going to win this one in 7, but you can't sleep on those Devils. I think that they very well could win. So anyways, we said that Boston would win in 6. Toronto, I went for 6 as well. Carolina, I'm doing 7, and then I'm also going the Rangers at 7 here. All right, now, who do I think is the best in the West? We start with this matchup with the Colorado Avalanche against the Seattle Kraken. Seattle, another new face in the playoffs here, and a really exciting season for them. In their second year ever, they make the playoffs, and for that, right there, they should be proud. But unfortunately, they have a very tough opponent in the Colorado Avalanche, the team that obviously just won the Stanley Cup, and they were a powerhouse. The Avalanche have their adversity to face this year, though. Recently, it was announced that Gabriel Landeskog will miss the entire postseason, where all season long we were thinking that Landeskog was going to come in for the playoffs, but now Colorado will miss the entire season without their captain. That is a tough loss. They also have no Josh Manson as well, and he was a key piece. And then Cale Makar, he should be ready to go for the playoffs, but his health has just been concerning this season. He's missed some stretches here and there, and I just hope for the sake of the playoffs that Cale Makar can be a part of the party because he is just a thrilling talent, and he would be a huge part in the Avalanche's success. We also have an injury on Seattle's side where Andre Burakovsky is out indefinitely, and that's a huge loss. Seattle really well spread around. Like they have a lot of guys who chip in, but Burakovsky was definitely one of their best goal scorers. So that will be tough. And then we look at the season series here too. Seattle actually beat Colorado 2-1. So they do have that going on, but at the end of the day, this is the playoffs here, and I just really think that Colorado is going to be heading into this one super confident. Seattle is the biggest underdog in the West. Not only that, but I think they're the biggest underdog in the entire postseason here. So I'm sorry, Seattle, but I just cannot go for you guys. I'm going for Colorado in 5. Next up, we have the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. This should be an interesting matchup. Let's just start off with Dallas is heading into the postseason pretty hot. One of the hotter teams. They've won 6 straight. I think this series is going to be a big-time goaltender battle where Gustafsson on Minnesota, he's been one of the most underrated goaltenders in the entire league this season. Some people saying that it's a Vezina caliber season. But on the other side, you have Jake Ottinger, and he is one of my favorite goaltenders in the league, and nobody should be sleeping on him. But I really see a goaltender battle here. Another big-time factor I'm looking for here is on Dallas' side. Jason Robertson, he needs to dial it up in this postseason. I thought last year he was rather cold, so I really want to see him take that big step in this postseason. On Minnesota's side of things, you got Kirill Kaprizov, and he shined big time last year in the playoffs, and I think he'll be able to do it again. I don't know why my gut says this, but this is for some weird reason what I'm going for. I am going with the Dallas Stars in 5. All right, Jets versus the Golden Knights. This should be a fun one. This is a 2018 Western Conference Final rematch. That'll be a lot of fun. We got some injuries on Vegas' side, which is an unfortunate thing to see. You got Mark Stone, who for quite a lengthy time lately in his NHL career, he's been dealing with injuries, and it sure does suck to see because he really was such an amazing player for such a long time. But at the moment, there's just no timeline for his return. And then I look at their goaltender in Logan Thompson, who, I want him to be the number one guy there, but there's some uncertainty with his health heading into this series. So I think that Vegas has a really big disadvantage here with the goaltending situation. I look at the Jets side, you obviously got Connor Hellebuck there, and he's capable of stealing games, and he very well could steal this series. At the end of the day, though, the Golden Knights, they fought hard. They finished with the Western title, the best team in the West. And I think that they're going to be able to get the job done here. I think this is a team that is well balanced. They don't have the most crazy offense. They don't have the craziest of defense. But I do think that they're going to be able to at least get the job done in one round in this postseason. And maybe if Logan Thompson can actually come back with some secure health, maybe Vegas will be able to get a run going on. I just look at Winnipeg. They had such a brutal finish to their season. They started off hot. I know that they did a good job making sure that they would at least make the playoffs, but I'm just not liking the vibe here in Winnipeg. I feel like there's some drama going on with one of their star players and Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I just feel like that's kind of a negative factor for these Jets. And I think there's a little bit too much drama going on with this team, too much inconsistency, and I think Vegas is going to be able to find a way to get through here. So I'm going with Vegas in 6. Our final first round matchup in the Western Conference, we have the Edmonton Oilers and the LA Kings. And, another rematch here in the first round that happened last year. It was a great series. It went to 7 games. But the story that I'm looking at here is Edmonton is one of the hottest teams heading into the postseason, where they have won 9 straight. They're also 18-2-1 since acquiring Matthias Ekholm, who has been the perfect fit for these Oilers, and they make them that much more dangerous. Edmonton just has a lot going on. Obviously, you point out the big dogs and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But the thing in Edmonton is they finally have this consistent and reliable goaltending, which makes them that much more dangerous. This team can score so many goals, and lately they just haven't been giving up as much, especially with that acquisition of Ekholm. The defense has just been amazing. And then the depth, I love the depth. They just have so many pieces in Zach Hyman, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who literally hit 100 points this season. And then you also have a Vander Kane. And then you have a decent bottom 6 with the likes of Ryan McLeod. There's just so many pieces on this Edmonton team. And then the Kings, they finished rather cold, though they were one of the hotter teams after the trade deadline. But things kind of started to slip away for them. There was a point where it was looking like they were going to clinch the Western Conference and finish with the best record there, but it just didn't quite happen. And now you have Kevin Fiala and Gabe Vilardi are out indefinitely, and it's rough. And I believe the starting goaltender heading into this series will be Joonas Korpisalo. And as a Blue Jackets fan, I know that McDavid haunts Joonas Korpisalo, and I could see it happening in this series. I think some of you might think this is a bit of a hot take, but I'm going with Edmonton in 5. And we also have how many games we were doing here. So for Colorado, I went with 5. Dallas, I went for 5 as well. And then Vegas in 6. And then Edmonton in 5. So for some weird reason, something's telling me there's just going to be some quick playoff series in this first round on the West. All right, round 2 here, and we start with the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. How interesting would this be? Obviously, the Leafs have had quite the curse against the Bruins, and I look at that. But I think that this one will go far. I think this is a 7-game series here, and, I could justify Toronto winning. I think I'm going to go with Boston. I just love the full package that they have, not to mention the trade deadline acquisitions that they made. You got Dmitry Orlov, Garnet Hathaway. They just grabbed some great pieces, and this Bruins team has just been dominant all year long, and I think they're unfortunately going to end the Maple Leafs happy feeling of finally getting out of the first round, but I think it's going to unfortunately end quick. Though I do think it'll go to 7 games. Now we've got the New York Rangers and the Carolina Hurricanes, and as I was saying, the Hurricanes are banged up, and just things aren't really going very smooth in Carolina. I think that they're going to find a way to get through that first round, but then I think that they are going to bump into this New York Rangers team, and I think the Rangers are going to get the job done. I just think that the Rangers have Carolina outmatched in every way possible pretty much in this series. Offensively, I think they're way better. Defensively, I'm going with that Rangers decor, and then the goaltending situation, Shesterkin miles ahead Freddie Anderson. So I think that New York could possibly win this one in 5, but to play it safe, I'm going to go with 6 games. All right, round 2 on the West. We have Colorado and Dallas. And I really am confident that this will be the matchup here after those first round matchups. And I think this will be an excellent matchup. You got a rematch going on from the second round in 2020, and that was a really exciting one. I think this one could go both ways. Like, Colorado, they're facing their adversity, and like I do question if they're actually going to be able to overcome those difficulties that they have going on with those injuries. I like what's going on with the Dallas Stars. Like I was saying, they finished the season hot, and I think they're definitely going to be able to put up a fight against Colorado. I think these teams are pretty evenly matched here. You can't sleep on Dallas' side. Like, they have a lot of players who can provide some scoring, and I like the decor. And then I will give the Stars the edge here in the goaltending battle. Though Alexander Georgiev has been awesome with Colorado, the Avalanche, they have their new goalie, and he's done a good job, and he's put up a Vezina caliber season. But I think Ottinger, especially after gaining some experience in last year's playoffs, I think that he's really going to be on another level here. And I'm going to go with the Dallas Stars. They're going to upset the Stanley Cup champions from last year, and the conference final will have the Dallas Stars. And I'm going to go with them beating Colorado in 7. Now we have the Edmonton Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. And when I look at this matchup, I just actually think that Edmonton has the edge here in every way, pretty much. Just the goaltending, the defense, the explosive power play that Edmonton has. I think the Edmonton is going to make a joke out of Vegas here. They won the season series 3-1 against them, and I can see a possible sweep here. But to play it safe, I'm going to go with Edmonton in 5. All right, for my conference final in the East, I have the Boston Bruins and the New York Rangers. And if this series does actually happen, I think it could be one of the best ones. I think this one would go very, very far. And I think that maybe the President's Trophy curse may come into factor here. I think that this one is definitely going to go to 7 games, and I think that the Rangers, I want to believe that they're going to find this big-time groove when they get into the postseason, and if they can overcome the Devils in the first round, then I think they're really going to find a way to cruise through the Canes, and they're just going to put it together, and they're going to feel really confident in this Bruins team. And I think that there's just going to be a lot of pressure in Boston, and I just don't know if they're going to get the job done. I love everything about this Bruins team. They're so well balanced. They just finished with the best ever regular season. There's all the reasons in the world to believe that Boston will definitely win the cup this year. But maybe they just will come short in completing this perfect season. So I'm going to go against them, and I'm going to say that the New York Rangers will win this one in 7 games and head to the Stanley Cup final. Well, now the Western Conference final, we have the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars, and this should be Edmonton's first real challenge, and especially if the Stars do find a way to make it here, I think that they're going to be playing some of their best hockey, and they're going to be feeling confident. And I see this series going to 6 games. I think that the Stars have the edge in goaltending here with Jake Ottinger. But I think Stuart Skinner is going to be enough to get the job done. And like I was saying, like, just this offense that the Oilers have and how well balanced they are all around on their team, this Oilers team just really has it going on now. And I think that they outmatch Dallas's strong depth. I would say Dallas doesn't have exactly the best bottom 6 in the business, and you can say that with Edmonton as well. So then I think it's going to kind of come down to that high-end scoring, and that's exactly what Edmonton will be able to provide. So I see them winning this one in 6 games and going to the Stanley Cup final. All right, the Stanley Cup final, the Edmonton Oilers against the New York Rangers. How exciting would this one be? Obviously, a Western team and an Eastern team going up against each other. They only played each other 2 times in the regular season, and each team won once, and it was a 1-goal game in both of those games. I expect this series to be extremely close, very tight. I would imagine Shesterkin is at his very best. And then on the other side, I would imagine McDavid is maybe playing even better than we've ever seen, even though he just put up one of the best regular season performances we have seen in decades. So it's going to be an absolute battle here. But if there's anybody who's going to be able to shut down McDavid and frustrate that offense, I think it is Shesterkin. I think the Rangers will actually have this power play that will be able to compete with Edmonton's power play. Though it took the Rangers some time to really click with their new trade deadline acquisitions, I'm looking for additional chemistry to be built from the Rangers as the postseason goes along. And I would hope that some magic clicks together. So I think that the power play is going to be a huge battle, but I think that the Rangers would be able to find a way to score some huge goals on the man advantage. And maybe, just maybe, when Edmonton's on the power play, Shesterkin will actually be able to shut down Edmonton, unlike any other opponent they have previously seen. There's so much to think about in this series, but just something tells me this is the team I've been wanting to run with. And I'm going with the New York Rangers in 7 games here. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. It means a bunch. All the support has been really awesome. Be sure to subscribe, leave a like, and drop a comment below. Let me know what you're thinking with my bracket here. Let me know if you disagree with something big time. What matchups do you think that I got right? Which ones do you think I got wrong? Do you think my bracket will play out nicely, or do you think it's going to be a total disaster? We will have to wait and see until we find out.